All right, so UFC 298 is this weekend. It's going to be Volkanovski versus Topuria, and we're going to give our predictions for all the notable main card fights. And we're going to start with Geoff Neal versus Ian Garry. We already talked a little bit. We both actually have different picks here. I'm going with Geoff Neal.
And I'm going with Ian Cherry, but I'm not super confident in this pick. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight.
Yeah, so Geoff Neal was supposed to fight Ian Garry, but then that fight got called off. And then Ian Garry was going to fight Luque, who got destroyed by Geoff Neal. And that showed in that fight. I don't think Garry could do what Neal did to Luque. And Neal has very good boxing, and he's a southpaw. And I think that could give Garry some problems, who's been caught in multiple fights with the boxing.
Yeah, in my opinion, though, I think Geoff Neal is a little one-dimensional. He's just pure boxing. I think him being southpaw is definitely going to play a part because that leg kick isn't there. But Ian Cherry is just more all around. But yeah, Ian Garry is more all around. I feel like he's got the kicks, and honestly, he's probably motivated from all the stuff that's been happening. He's acting like, you know, people are bullying him and stuff. Dude, you literally walked into this yourself. But I think that this motivation is going to just help him, because I think he's almost acting like people are doubting his fighting abilities when they're not. They're doubting, or they're not doubting, but they're just making fun of his situation. So I think that Ian Garry will take this one.
Well, Geoff Neal gave Shavkat a lot of problems. No one's given, not even Stephen Thompson was able to give Shavkat those problems. He went to I think a war.
He missed weight though.
I mean, besides that, Shavkat's known for how good he is skill-wise. And Geoff Neal missed weight. He gave some reasons why. I feel like that wasn't even the best version of Geoff Neal.
Did you and I mentioned that we thought that Neal missed weight on purpose? Do you think he did?
I mean, I don't know, but I just know that Geoff Neal gave Shavkat some really good problems with the boxing. I mean, he was landing some shots that looked like he even stunned Shavkat. And, you know, based on rumors, Shavkat knocked out Ian Garry. I just think that Neal's going to give him problems with the boxing. Obviously, with Garry, he doesn't have the leg kick, which is giving his past opponents problems, but he has the body kick and the head kick, which knocked out Daniel Rodriguez. But I think Geoff Neal's going to go at him with the boxing, and I think that everything that's happened with Ian Garry might actually be a negative. And Gary's just new with his new team, Shootbox in Brazil, Charles Oliveira's team. I think that's going to be his team going forward. It's a new one. I think Geoff Neal can give him some problems.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's going to be a competitive fight. But in my opinion, I think that Geoff Neal is a little one-dimensional. You know, Ian Garry's undefeated. He seems like a very good fighter. As I said before, people, or as much as Ian Garry wants to act like people are doubting his fighting abilities, people are not. Everybody knows he's a good fighter.
Yep. All right, moving on to Merab Dvalishvili. That's how my brother pronounced it, but Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo. I'm going with Merab.
I'm going with Merab as well. I think Henry Cejudo, he has a little bit of a delusional arrogance to him. I think that he thinks he's way better. I mean, Sean O'Malley, I think, put it perfectly. He said that Henry Cejudo is a good fighter, but he thinks he's way better than he actually is. You know, I think obviously he's a very good coach, but I think he took the coaching job and was like, oh, I'm super smart. I'm going to out-IQ everybody. And then he goes to fight Aljamain Sterling, and he thinks he's way better than he actually is. Gets taken down multiple times, and in my opinion, he just isn't great on the feet either. And I think he thinks he's way better than he actually is, and I think Merab, you know, being able to beat Petr Yan 50-45, when Yan had just had a great performance against O'Malley, had a competitive fight against Sterling, and then was whooping him that first fight when he got disqualified. Merab is running with a lot of momentum here, and he's obviously a great fighter, unlimited cardio. I don't see how Cejudo gets this one done.
Cejudo's wrestling is very overrated, especially against Sterling. I mean,
yeah, because it's different, right? Olympic wrestling versus MMA wrestling.
No, yeah, but you remember, so after Cejudo lost to Sterling, they're like, oh, will you move down? And Cejudo goes, I'm a big guy, Joe. And my brother was like, you're not a big guy. He's not a lean bantamweight. Yeah. And it showed the detriments of not being lean showed when he fought Sterling. Sterling is as lean of a guy as you can
look
get.
At the difference, right? If you look at their physique difference, it's like Cejudo obviously has abs and stuff, and for the general population, he's shredded. But, you know, he said I was a big guy. I'm like, dude, you seem a little bit like a muscular pudgy is kind of a way to phrase it. Almost like a little bit better than Masvidal, but Masvidal's a perfect example of muscular pudgy.
Yeah, and the strength showed. I mean, when you're in an MMA fight, you want to be as lean as possible. And Sterling was out-muscling Cejudo in a variety of exchanges that did change the fight. And Cejudo's not coming in, from the pictures I've seen of him, about the same shape. And Dvalishvili, I think, is developing more as a fighter. I feel like Cejudo's already reached his ceiling. I've seen even better striking from Merab in some clips as well. I believe Cejudo's going to really struggle with the pace, but at least he can expect the pace coming in, but I don't think Cejudo's wrestling is as good enough. And then when it comes down to the feet, Cejudo overrates his striking. I think Merab's pace with the striking will give him the edge.
Yeah, if Merab is able to take him down as well, it's going to change how confident Cejudo is on the feet. And we saw against Sterling as well. Sterling was confident in throw the kicks. Cejudo was not confident in throw the kicks. Cejudo has this weird karate stance, which I think is beneficial for some people, but he's just going in with his chin up high. I think his striking is quite average, and I don't see how he beats Merab.
It's a 3-round fight, which I think gives Cejudo more of a chance, but I mean, Merab has shown that he can put the pace on for 3 rounds. He's only fought 1 5-round fight, so I think everything favors Merab going into this fight. So, next fight is going to be the co-main event, which is Whittaker versus Costa. I kind of blanked out for a second. Whittaker versus Costa. I think it's silly to pick Costa in this matchup, so I'm going with Whittaker.
Yeah, I'm going for Whittaker as well. I think the big and power that Costa has, people try and call this guy a knockout artist. He's really not. He beats people from accumulation, but doesn't actually knock people out because he's just not that accurate. But I think that could give Whittaker a little bit of problems, and it seems like Paulo Costa has been very motivated after all the other performances, but he hasn't performed first of all, that Luke Rockhold fight, wow, was that a bad fight? Yeah. I mean, Luke Rockhold looked terrible, and he was cracking Costa. I mean, Costa won 30-27, but that was not competitive at all. And I think Robert Whittaker is going to be very motivated after losing to Dricus du Plessis, and Whittaker is just a very all-around fighter.
Yeah, I like Costa's matchup versus wrestlers. I think he's a lot better. He showed against Yoel Romero that he can flip people off. I liked him in the Chimaev fight with the wrestling, but going into this fight with Whittaker, who's more all-around, Whittaker's gonna beat him. Obviously, Whittaker's got a shaky chin, so you have to give Costa a little bit of an advantage. Even though he doesn't, like he was saying, the accumulation factor, like when he gets TKOs, it's accumulation, not one shot. But with Whittaker, you have to be a little wary of the chin. But Whittaker, I can see Whittaker taking him down and holding him there for some time. And I think Whittaker, he really turns it on in the 2nd or 3rd round. And I think he'll win by decision. But, Whittaker, I think it will take it. A lot of Costa's weapons work really well on southpaws, and if Whittaker uses the feints like Adesanya, which I think he will, he'll take that one pretty easily.
Yeah, and you just got to look at Paulo Costa's last couple of performances. I mean,
long layup as well.
Long layup too. That performance against Rockhold, as I mentioned before, was pretty bad. And then his fight before that one, missed weight terribly and lost to Vettori, and that fight aged terribly. So I don't see how Whittaker is gonna. Whittaker loses.
I don't like Costa coming in off a layoff against Whittaker. I think, someone closer to him in the rankings, maybe like a Jared Cannonier, even a Chimaev would have been a better fight for him coming off of a layoff and an injury. So I don't like the fight, and I think Whittaker will beat him. Yeah. So, main event time. We're going to go with a controversial pick. We've been talking about it for like the last couple of weeks, but we're both going for Ilia Topuria, and this guy is on his hype train.
Yeah, initially it was crazy because when I heard about the matchups, I was very in between.
We were both back and forth.
Yeah, I was leaning more towards Volkanovski, and the reason why I was leaning more towards Volkanovski was just because of the leg kicks and the fact that Volkanovski is a little bit more he's more well-rounded in terms of striking, being able to throw the kicks as well. He does, I feel like, shoot a lot more takedowns, but Topuria's fought a couple of good grapplers recently, so that's probably why we haven't seen that, because Topuria actually comes from a grappling background, which is surprising because his boxing is so crisp. But the reason why I go with Topuria is, number one, Topuria, you have to see the aura this guy has. I mean, this guy is incredibly confident. I think there's a difference between arrogance and cockiness. I feel like a lot of people think this dude's cocky arrogance and just being confident. And I think that he's just a confident guy and he knows about his abilities. And it just seems like the perfect time for Topuria to take the reign from Volkanovski. Volkanovski's been a long champion, just got knocked out, which is obviously
we should definitely dive into the mindset like you were talking about. How I think Topuria is here at the moment at his all-time high. Well, Volkanovski's he's at the bottom.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, Topuria is undefeated. The guy, it's literally the guy's undefeated. And, I saw an interview with him as well. He understands that Volkanovski has a good leg kick. So one of my concerns with Topuria initially was, okay, he has a very boxing stance. He's very heavy in front of on that front foot. But let's be honest, Volkanovski doesn't throw any body or head kicks very often. And that's not going to really be there with them both being orthodox fighters. Volkanovski is just coming off that loss. Topuria has great boxing, and Topuria will game plan for those leg kicks. And as you mentioned before, Topuria's here and Volkanovski's kind of here right now in terms of mindset, and I don't really think you beat that. I mean, we've seen with so many fighters, when they lose their confidence, it just goes downhill.
Yeah, and Topuria's confidence, they were saying, is an all-time high. He made Bryce Mitchell look like he didn't belong in there. Made Bryce Mitchell want to retire. Josh Emmett made him look like an amateur boxer.
Yeah, people were saying that Yair Rodriguez, his performance against Josh Emmett was more impressive. I would disagree with that.
No, I mean, Yair Rodriguez even said he didn't remember a lot of the fight because he got hit so hard.
Yeah, that's
by
what I'm
Josh
saying.
Emmett.
It's like,
I think it was in the first. I mean, Yair has a good chin, and he got cracked with an overhand and forgot a lot of the fight.
Yeah, because people think, oh, if you finished him, then it's better. And that's not necessarily true. Yair finished him and got hit a couple times, and then Ilia essentially just fought a perfect fight for 5 rounds.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people underrate Topuria's grappling going into this fight. If there's someone who can take Volkanovski down and submit him, it's Topuria. You might say Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega doesn't have good takedowns. He could jump on you, which we saw, which gave him a better chance on the ground maybe for the submissions. But Topuria, he beat Bryce Mitchell bad, and he submitted him. Everyone was shocked by that. But Topuria is very good in the grappling, is a better grappler than Volkanovski. And then with the striking, MMA striking, it's close, but the boxing, I do favor Topuria. And I think that Topuria is going to beat him. He's shown the 5-round experience. Volkanovski is a good fighter. I just don't think that I think with the mindset, and I think Topuria is that good, but I do believe that it's about time that Volkanovski gives up the reins, and Topuria reminds me of a young McGregor in terms of the mindset and the confidence in his skills, and I mean, he's undefeated in the UFC.
Yeah, as you were saying, he seems like the perfect guy to beat Volkanovski. Volkanovski's been such a dominant champion, and when it comes to featherweight, besides McGregor, even though McGregor was very dominant coming up to the title, everybody's been very dominant. We had Aldo, Holloway, and then now Volkanovski, and Topuria just seems like the next guy. And with that mindset, like I said before, it's not arrogance to me. It's just confidence, and he's just so confident in himself and knows his abilities. And he thought he was going to beat Volkanovski before he lost. And as much as it sucks to say this, Volkanovski getting knocked down in his last fight does play a big part. And it's coming back in 4 months, which I feel like it's a very short amount of time. Volkanovski was drinking a lot. It just doesn't seem like the right time for Volkanovski. He's also upset with Topuria, which I find is a little strange. Yeah, I think this is going to hurt him too. Yeah, because, he's mad at him. I kind of get it because he's kind of being annoying, but he's saying that Topuria's talking shit. He's not talking shit. He's just talking about how good he is and how confident he is. Yeah, he's so confident to a point that it comes off as arrogant, or like he's so confident almost to his face that it seems to Volkanovski that he's talking shit to him when he really is not. Yeah, I think that, and then but a lot of people will, I feel like, especially with the Colby-Leon fight, they went way too far in like the mindset of fighters. I believe it has a factor, especially if someone's very, very confident. And in this case, I do, along with the skills. I think Topuria, I forgot to actually, this reminds me, Volkanovski, the only fight he really struggled are with short guys. Chad Mendes gave him a very good fight. And Topuria is also short. He's 5'6". Well, it says Volkanovski's about 5'5". So he struggled with short guys, but the reach isn't. Topuria's reach is not bad. It's 69. Volkanovski's 71 and a half. Volkanovski struggled with short guys in the past, and Topuria is that. There's just so many things from mindset to skills to the mindset. I feel like people don't take into account a lot of the time. Yeah, and to the body type of Topuria. The boxing is so crisp. His boxing defense was showed in the Emmett fight because Yair Rodriguez couldn't avoid that overhand right. Neither could Bryce Mitchell, but he did, and easily. His boxing's good. The only shot that I see Volkanovski having against Topuria, but obviously we have to remember that Volkanovski is one of the pound-for-pound best, but if Volkanovski can use the leg kick, that is his way to victory. If he can't, he's in trouble. It's so crazy that me and him were leaning more towards Volkanovski. Now all of a sudden, I just don't see how Topuria loses, to be honest. But let us know what you guys think in the comments. And we will see you guys next time, aka after the fights, when we got all our predictions right. Me, because I think Ian Garry's going to win. We'll see what happens. Neil's going to win, but we think Topuria. Leave your comments again. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.